The car behind me is not the car behind you. This car is an unlimited car. This one should be able to fit in a lower class at Gridlife. Right now, because of the odd things that we've just pulled out of my head and ass and other orifices of my body, this car doesn't fit any particular class, which means that it ends up going into an unlimited class when it goes into racing events. Now, with me getting more and more interested in being competitive, one of the most competitive things you can do, try to fit into a lower class, and then you feel like you're a winner. Bullying the younger kids type of thing. Make yourself feel better. But this car was so close to a thing called street mod in Gridlife. And so let's take a little look on the journey of what we're gonna do to get this car into a slightly lower class. Oddly enough, the conversation about getting into a lower class started when I shattered this piece right here. This is a T56 Magnum with non-synchroed gear sets, and that made me wonder, well, what if I put a normal synchronized gear set in here? Would that let me get into a lower class? So this braking actually caused the conversation, and boy, did it break.
Finally got the car up on the lift, and we'll be taking the transmission out. First and foremost, since we have all these theories and whatnot to see what happens to the transmission.
That looks pretty clean.
This is brand new still. So, I think we're gonna get really, really lucky, take it apart and realize it's something with the fork or something like that, and we don't have to rebuild all the faceplates and get them all brand new because those things are expensive.
This is an exciting moment because I have never once believed that you could pull the transmission out this way. I still don't, but if it can be, this saves us a lot of time with having to not pull engine and engine related stuff. So I'm hoping this works. I'm expecting it not to, but at least we can put it back up if something goes wrong.
So this is for all the non-believers out there. You can pull it out from the back every time.
It's got just enough clearance.
Yeah, because the shaft is fucking huge, but the clutch only goes out so far. You just have to clear the clutch from here.
I'm hoping our problem is in here, but I suspect it's in here. Okay, so this part unfortunately already looks fine. This is very interesting, a little bit further diagnosis, is that I'm in third and fourth, and it's not spinning out back yet here. You'll hear it occasionally. So now it's in gear. Those are the dogs.
Yeah.
Slapping back and forth, which is by design, but that, I'm not, like,
Oh, that's weird.
yeah. It just occasionally grabs it. So this is where we'll start seeing things this thing comes on. Yeah. The videos in here have been sporadic because I have been out filming a lot of Top Gear lately, and this is the only thing I bring with me on my Top Gear shoots, no joke. And I'll show you how effective this is packed. Keeps. This right here is the answer to all my prayers. When I'm in a hotel, I simply can use this, A, for the minoxidil for regrowing hair and encouraging hair growth, but B, it also works well for styling my hair at the same time. With Keeps, I reached out to them because I saw how important this was to a person like me looking to prevent male pattern baldness related hair loss. As you get older, 2 out of every 3 men experience male pattern hair loss at the age of 35, and of course I'm just about to be 40. I think that Keeps has done a phenomenal job at preventing the natural progression of my hair, and I personally wanted to keep it as long as possible. You talk about the thinning here and here and at the top here. Keeps has a variety of solutions. They're all easy to research. Their website makes it so clear, and you don't have the uncertainty and fear and worry that before Keeps you didn't know what to do. I'm very thankful for Keeps in my life. The process is simple, streamlined, and I just go about my day and keep my hair. So if you're interested in pursuing it further, Keeps has a special offer for you. If you go to keeps.com/RobDahm, that's KEEPS.com/RobDahm. There's the dog teeth. Is that his tooth snapped off right there?
And nope, that is snapped off. Wow.
Are there things in the bottom?
There's just this pin right here. And then there's all the bearing or whatever. That didn't come out. It looked good when it came out. There's that. I don't know if that's
in there. It hit hard on the edge right there.
That makes sense for why it would clink occasionally.
Yeah, it would occasionally grab those teeth. So this whole arm should come out further like that, and so then you see how they're there. That's what you should be hearing. But for some reason, this wasn't going all the way out, and we only hit on a couple of them. You see those teeth right there?
Going down a lot, actually.
Wonder where the rest of those teeth are, though.
That should be in that back side, because it goes all the way into the back.
The pin, I'm guessing, is this one right here. That should be on. See this? That's what broke.
Okay.
Because that should not be sliding with this.
That's what this is right here, then?
So I'm gonna guess, yeah, this little. My first impression is that that's the pin to hold this to this arm. That's why sometimes it would go in. So these are not straight cut gears, so you don't hear that whine on this transmission. The clunk is the lack of synchros, but the whine comes from the 4-rotors transmission with these being straight, like that. They're capable of producing more torque, but they're louder. These are on an angle, and so that gives you a quieter transmission, but clearly those are beefy enough. There we are. This is our first time we've torn apart a T56 ever.
A new transmission in here, actually.
Oh, Joel and I did Joel's transmission.
Oh,
But a real man's transmission.
yeah, I wasn't here for a good reason.
Oh, there you go.
Oh my god. So is that how they collect back there?
And this one apparently.
This is just like a little babysitter full of teeth. Oh my god.
That's the magnet.
Yeah, the magnet's back there.
Job.
Oh wow, that makes a lot of sense.
That's why you didn't
That's
see
not good.
anything.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's why I
That's
believe
why I
it.
didn't make the sound or anything either.
Yours synchros. So see how reverse is synchroed? So inside of this whole area is going to be triple whatever, quadruple code, and all those things inside of there are all these brass or whatever
Wow.
metal. And so they speed the parts up, and then as each tooth engages, each row, it gets tighter and tighter, and you get into that shift. It's actually a wedge cone inside of there, where these are just plap. So there you go.
Oh wow. What is
Summer
look,
teeth.
That's cracked right there.
Yeah, summer teeth.
Oh my god.
Some are here, some are there.
Sorry,
I didn't know this shaft
being
has
amazed. Here, look. I got you, bro.
JB Weld, yep. Okay, so that part we can replace the dog teeth. It looks like it's only third gear that completely nuked itself, so we'll read into that further and see what happened. I know when I'm not capable of having a repair like this, we would have to get the parts from Liberty Gears, who's actually like 20 minutes from my old house back in Michigan. We don't have all the special pullers and everything. I think we will at some point. This gives us an opportunity to pull this transmission out, put the original transmission back in, which is still a T56, but it's just not face plated like this. So the
Still
shifts
Magnum,
are
right?
It's still Magnum.
Yeah, still Magnum.
We'll just disable the flat shifting on the 3-rotor for now. When you feel the car binding up like it did, the first thing you think of is it the clutch? I'll tell you what, X-Clutch has put up with all of the weird things that we do. And I don't mean just performance-wise or mechanically, just the weird shit that we do. X-Clutch has been there for us. And so this isn't even meant to be an ad for them. It's literally just the fact that that clutch should have blown on the situation that we were about to show you. I love taking blame, and I love like, oh, Rob's a shit driver. I actually didn't do anything this time, and maybe that's even worse. I should have done something. The symptoms didn't make sense. I clutched in 4th to 5th. It was very done right, but the details are actually really crazy what Isaiah's about to show you.
Actually, I had pilot bearings go out, and I haven't had one go out and do this exact symptom. So I was not in suspicion of the pilot bearing, especially because it all went together really nice. But look at all this metal around here that's all grinded down. This is the actual E-shaft.
Around the ring right here, you see, first of all, this is hot. This isn't supposed to be hot. This doesn't see any heat. But also, look at all that metal deposit that's on there. The input shaft and the E-shaft just decided I have angry ref. Hot sex, and yeah, they like friction welded themselves together, and I think that must elongated the E-shaft hole or something like that. This is our old transmission. We were leaking a lot from here before, so I cleaned that all up and did the silicone to that guy. I re-greased this guy with the shit that'll stay there for ever and ever. Now what I did, since it's going to be me and Ethan throwing it up here, we don't have a Chinese jack or anything like that. I lifted this up so that way there's a better angle. Man this bitch up there and see what happens.
After my last video on the nice bump steer kit change for the 3-rotor, the guys over at CC, Core Components Fab Lab, ended up showing me this new thing for RX-7s. FDs, as many of us know, already do not have the ability to change the ball joints on the lower control arm. This is not a replaceable ball joint. These guys ended up making something really nice. Now these aren't the cheapest thing in the world, but then again, there isn't an other choice. If you have a stock height RX-7, you will go to the website, figure out how to cut or grind the existing one out, and this is what you replace it with, and you now have ball joints that are serviceable. What's really neat though is that if you lower your car, because you're like me, they have this option as well. So what this does, wildly enough, is actually drops the lower control arm's pivot point. So this point pivots lower on here. It's highly unlikely that you're going to have small wheels that this would hit into, but it will drop this point, so when the car is on the ground as a lowered car, your control arm normally would be up like this, and your roll center is way off from where you originally wanted it to be. So it squares out the lower control arm. Long story short, your roll center makes more sense and actually makes the car better for a lowered car to handle. So that's what that extra height there does. So we're gonna go ahead and try it. That's all talk until you do it, but at least if there's any sort of slop in our old control arms from all the years of abuse of this car, even this version would fix that. This whole assembly goes from the bottom of the control arm once you grind the other one out, and then this tightens up over it. And then of course the taper goes into the upright. Pop this whole thing apart and then swap these.
And there's that disgusting. I think I'm just gonna hit it with the bandsaw on this side, and then it should all fall apart.
Nice.
I was kind of confused because you kind of grind it down, and then, so I don't really know where they want your thing to sit, but I guess they want it to sit right there.
Looks good to me.
Yeah, it's pressed in there.
Like a big ass wrench.
We got big ass wrenches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got this after watching Fast and the Furious when Dominic beat the Asian guy's ass with the big ass wrench.
It's impressive. It's all reusable.
Yeah, you could don't even have to pull it out. You could take it out from here and do the set
Oh,
screws,
shit.
and it comes out from here, and then you put the other one in there or replace it.
Those are bushings that I put in there. Oh, those look,
I don't know.
those look old.
You do have a full set.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I only did the rears on this car because the rears were clinking really bad. I got some of them done.
Yes.
Front lower control arm.
Is that the same one as this? No, it's not. This is.
So this is both lower, front, upper, front. I'm losing my shit. Front, lower, control, arm, inner.
Inner. Okay.
Yeah.
So then these are outer.
Okay.
Okay, perfect.
So J Auto sold me these years ago, back when I was still in Michigan.
So now it actually is gonna feel better.
Yeah, it's gonna feel even better. I always did the rears on this car because they were all clinky when I went and set the half-mile record years ago. And I brought them to Cali.
So these are the old bushings, and these ones are really, really easy to put in. You never know how much they want you to put on here. It goes in there like that. It goes in there like that.
Those the beers you were drinking?
yeah. I swear, drunk out officer wasn't. What I was doing was just simulating just different kind of turn-in feels, weight transfer on the car, and also even bottoming out, coming out of here. Not that the bottoming out was the intended part. Hurt. The important moment was that when the car was hitting bumps, it wasn't change the characteristics of the car. So yeah, much more stable. It's still like clown car-ish. Like there's a weird thing, but it feels like a much bigger car. That's probably more of an alignment thing. It's really the combination of both. The lower roll center and the bump steer. The bump steer is the thing I still just can't get over how much of a big difference that made. But yeah, the combination so far seems pretty solid. If we lower the car, we'll gain a little bit more performance. But the question is, what do you feel at the ends? Like, can I tell when the car's at its limits? So that way you drive it to its limits? I guess that's honestly, you have to do it on the track. I don't know what the car's gonna do, if it's gonna oversteer or understeer at this point. It's got the power to oversteer, but like on a turn, if you're just maintaining throttle, is the rear gonna kick out or is the front? I think it should understeer. I don't know. Isaiah had a great idea about let's go wash it up because it just really needs it. But then he's like, yeah, let's wash the C8 too. And I'm like, wait a second. I can't drive both of them. Him and Joel go riding that thing and maybe get some half-ass shots of this car while we go. Get it cleaned up because, my God, when it cleans up, it looks so much better. With all the water crises that were happening in California over the last couple of years, this is the first time I've been to an actual outdoor, like, wash your own car situation. So it actually takes me back quite a few years. It feels really cool to do that. And of course, you know, twinsing it up is even cooler. Like, you don't realize how much fun it is driving a car until you're driving next to your boy. Like, that's just fun. But my boy is me. This is one of the greatest challenges for this car yet. I don't know if it's going to survive the water. That's about the cleanest that car's ever going to look again until we get it painted.
Water get in there?
No, surprisingly. I just realized that the windshield, though, I'll have to go fast. So looking at the rules, we found a couple things that this car isn't doing, even though it's a monstrous engine. Rule number one is that you're allowed to have a wide body and you're allowed to have the tires out wider as long as the wide body covers that. So from up here, this car technically would currently be eliminated because you can see the tire. We have had in our back of pocket the feed knockoff side skirts for the rear because we already have them in the front. The car right now is like the Insight where it's this massive wedge of a car and it's driven me nuts for a while, but all this is good if we add that out there, but these aren't the right tires. So we talked to the guys at Titan 7. These were a display set. I'm sure they had them at a couple different events. These are Titan 7's 10-spoke, and they actually look kind of like Advent 10 spokes, but the point being is that Titan 7 makes them light as hell. These are 10.5 inch wide, which gives you just about any option for massive width and performance. A 10.5 can do up to, whatever, 325 safely. We are going to do the ideal wheel for this, which is a 285, which is the class requirement with 4 Gridlife's street mods. So I think we're gonna go with some Bridgestone RE71 RSs. That will give us this nice square, no massive sidewall, because look at the wheels over here. You can see that sidewall strength, which is already a problem with ET Street Rs, giving that sidewall up for grip. Making them too wide is a problem. So I think those are 10 or 9.5s. These are gonna be even wider, and I went with an aggressive offset for this car. Whenever you're talking about the width of a tire, the American way is actually really easy. This is a 10.5 inch wide rim. 0 offset means it's centered. So the face is centered. That face is centered left to right. So when you have positive, negative offset, all it's talking about is pushing that center more shallow or more deep, more concave. Well, the RX-7 is very difficult with that, and what we're gonna do is show you that I went with a 10.5 by 22 plus 22 offset, so it brings it out here a little bit to hopefully make sure that the wide body fenders and everything fit together. So we're gonna go ahead and see if my math added up at all, or this is something you shouldn't do. With that being the rear, the front is also a problem area for me. Now these are 9.5 or 8.5 inch wide tires, and when you look at it from right here, you see we're missing out on a lot of opportunity. Why get your tires as wide as possible? Well, that is one basic principle, as that one rolls away, of the car. The wider the tires are, the way the 4-rotor is, the less weight transfer you have. Wider and lower center of gravity, massive improvements for your car. This tire's not even cambered in as much as it should be, and we've got another 1/2 inch to come out. So I got the same square tires for the front. That said, one of the biggest weaknesses I have as a driver is being a solid braker. I brake cars, but brake. So we went through and put the 17-inch compatible Willwoods on here, and my God, is that clean. So the cool part about this kit, that's a 17-inch wheel, this 5 Ziggin, and you can see their kit definite clearance is that. Not all 17s have this wide of a barrel. If we're gonna go to this, we have the opportunity to upgrade to Willwood's 18-inch kit and get another 1/2 inch wider from the center out. One of the things that works to our advantage, and this is what actually brought my attention to it, is you have a front splitter. It can't be more than 4 or 5 inches from the existing bodywork. That front splitter is going to become very effective for us. It already is. This is a very aggressive thing. At like 170 miles an hour, that is a lot of downforce. And I would actually probably get some compression rods that come up from here on the chassis and hold this out at the edge. It is mounted to the chassis, but just not on the very front. So that's step one. Step two is they allow you to have 2 canards, which are basically 2 more wings that help with front downforce. And for me, those are more drag. But we have the horsepower to handle that drag. That is something very important to me. Let's max out the rules in the rule book. Now, speaking of this turbo, I have found something Isaiah made a really small, big mistake on, is no matter what I did with the ducting, which is a big problem with this car, it would overheat the oil. In street driving, track driving, the oil would overheat first. 2 coolers, the ducts do allow air to get around them. They weren't finished all the way, but fans. Until I saw right down here. So that is the oil feed line to the engine touching the header. That oil feed line goes from the second cooler, touches the header, and then goes up to the filter. And so the header is preheating my oil into the engine, which it doesn't need because the engine already heats it up pretty well. We need to move that drastically, get that away from the highest heat source from a reliability standpoint, really. Ducting and cooling, so that we can get more than 2 laps on this. Now, going to the back though, this wing seems like it's not tall enough, but the rules for Gridlife say that the wing cannot be higher than the top part of the stock car, nor can it be wider than the car. And so this wing actually fits. I mean, we could probably put the base plates back on. We were missing one, and get it just below. I think it'd be somewhere like right here, so another inch up, because again, this is sitting up right now, and use as much height as we can. And then the final thing is a proper diffuser. I don't think we'll be able to get to that in time. This is just a basic diffuser, and it's not even effective, to be honest, at that. And it can only go to under the rear wheels, so under the rear axles to back here. And I think that also can't go past 4 inches past the bodywork. I would love to make that an effective one. The one rule that is very clear that is kind of funny, because you're doing the front and the rear, you cannot have a flat bottom on this car, because the flat bottoms are that effective. They don't want it for this class. That's where it was like, man, we're already so close with this car with all these aero basics that we just slapped on. Let's refine, let's polish, and let's run a lower class and then lose to Miatas. There's a car actually on the internet, not a friend of mine, but a person that I love his build. There's a guy named Adam, it's like Oddlod on Instagram, and he has basically this sort of wide body set up to his car, but his tires sit properly. So you see with this, when you look to the back of the car, you see stock car back there, an extra inch out here. It just doesn't make sense. And so visually, I've been wanting to pull this out for a while with this tire. So what we're gonna do first though, is check the rears, because we have a square setup, and I know they'll work pretty aggressively on the front, but the rears, I'm curious to see what a square setup will look like. Even with it completely in rebound, you can see that this still sticks out a little bit because it's a 315. Just for your and my reference, I want to see what this looks like before and after, because we're not going to be able to set the car down. I have been ready for this moment for a long time. Just what I was looking for. When you look at it from this angle, it's exactly what I wanted.
Poking out just a little bit.
The car is up on an angle a little bit, but it still presents the right idea. I'll even drop this all the way down, and so you can see.
It's perfect.
Yeah. And really, it's going to end up being more like this because the car is up on an angle like that. That's that 1 inch, 25 millimeter wider. It'll hold that tire just right. A little bit of room to have it go inside the fender and camber or whatever you want to do. Joel was asking off camera, does the RX-7 have camber from the factory? And actually the lower ones should come out. They almost always come out. The upper ones are fixed. And so what's nice is that means that, again, it'll just suck further into, kind of pivot off of somewhere in here, and it'll sit right inside this fender. Here comes the happy or sad moment.
That looks close.
It is. It's going to be aggressive on the fronts. I know that for sure. Okay. That does poke. But a couple good things work to our advantage. That is no camber gain right now. Now that looks beautiful.
Yeah, it does.
We could actually almost leave it like that. If we didn't get the bigger setup ordered, I'm okay with that look. But that's going to look sexy with the bigger ones. We got a chance to stare at this for a little bit, and once we can properly put full weight on here and get the tire on there, long story short, it's very square. In terms of front and rear tires, they are sitting out the same amount. And so we're going to see how much it wants to chew out of this, and we'll take that out accordingly. But I got what I asked for. I wanted aggressive and I wanted square, and we got that. Might as well see what we're actually trying to do all together. It's going to look pretty good. It's equally aggressive on the front and rear. It's giving us our maximum width of the car for better, weight transfer, stability, all that sort of stuff. I'm very, very happy with that. So I think it's time to start cutting up the fenders.
Say that again louder.
It's time to start cutting up the fenders. It's time to start cutting up the fenders. No, I asked for that. I want this time to start cutting up the fenders. So it looks like this actually ends up getting mounted onto the wider fender. So we'll take this off to get it out of the way.
I don't think I've ever seen them on.
No, I'm sure they haven't. Why do I not feel so bad? Well, look at the reflections right in that area. This car has been damaged before me. This is me when I did the bikini burnout, but like this whole quarter panel, it needs to be fixed anyway. So that is all damaged all the way up into here. You can actually see some sort of bad repainting job. So this whole area is already compromised now.
What are the chances that this tape takes off some paint with it?
Really good chance of that. That's a high on the forecast right now. There we have very first version. It's bowed like crazy right here because we left it. I'm sure somebody set shit on top of this. So I removed the side skirt because it was in the way, and it kind of brings this whole area in. What we are going to do is just start drilling and tapping, but small holes. This is time for Klinko lock. You can get these things on Amazon too, but I'm sure they're knockoffs of the real thing. This is a personal favorite indecisive piece. So it'll lock in like that, right? Put it in like that. You can get a 1/8 inch drill bit, and then boop, holds it all in there. Oh, it's exhilarating.
Nice.
Booyah, I am a body man. That came out way wrong. There we go. This area is really weird because it's actually hitting up here. These are so gratifying. Look at it from this point of view. We went from this tire sticking out horribly to looking pitiful. Yeah, it looks like the tire is pitiful. So I probably want to do a little bit of work to the back side of this. So that explains a lot. Look at that surface area, and look at it bows in right there. At the very least, what I want to do is kind of come at an angle and take this part really down right in here. We'll start here and just take this down so that there's not such a big gap. Without even setting things down properly, that already fits so much closer. It's kind of promising.
Yeah, it looks way better. Like right here.
Yeah, and then we haven't even tried to rivet. So if I was hot boy drifting, I'd be okay with where this is at right now, but what you'll see is it looks like it shit its pants. This angle of this is somewhere here, which is not vertical. I want it vertical. That's the way it's gonna look best. And of course we have this area here. So what I'm gonna do is kind of work it against itself a little bit because it's playing me. This is definitely one of those situations where if you have the right tools and you are an expert body man, you just be like, oh, let me take a thousandth off of here and then everything all lines up. I am not that guy, but I am a guy who's determined. At least when you see this, you see where I'm going vertical. And so what I think I'm gonna do is test my luck, which I know it never works out this way, but I'm gonna go ahead and drill these two and see if basically that forces the piece's hand. We're not gonna take too much material off of this. Joel had a good point. I was trying to be perfectionist and whatever. I'm like, Abe's gonna end up needing as much material as he can to fix what I do. So we just need it to be thick, stay on the car at high speeds. I don't think we're gonna bring it back to that level. So with this here, I think we can even almost leave that overnight and help get some of this flex out. Nope. Oh, oh. It's barely on there because look at how it's.
That's good enough, though.
Yeah, I guess. I was looking from back here and I was like, man, that's still curving in. And then I tripped and went to grab this and I realized that's exactly what this area needs. Is look at this. This is overlapping here, but as soon as I pull this area out, you see how that bodywork comes back? So we're gonna also fill in more of the rear tire. Do it right there. That'll bring this out. That brings this whole area out. That's a good spot to be. There.
Yeah, it's nice.
This is finally time where the inner fender irreversibly will be cut. And that is exactly what I want. I never knew I had the strength to do this. So what we're gonna do is something really fancy. We're not just gonna cut up, because I knew from the beginning, we still have to connect the bottom inside to the top inside. This sheet metal connects to this sheet metal right now down here. So I'm gonna slit that and then push the bottom one up. They always cut all those teeth, you know, those tabs into it, and then they fold it back under and probably tack weld it back in. That's exactly what we're gonna do here. This was folded back by the previous owner for all of the drag racing this car did in fact see. And all this is so trashed anyway, and you can tell the tires hit it. So again, if this was like a perfect car, this whole situation would be different. It is weird, you know, like that. Okay, the FD is starting to become a collectible car, but I'm still trashing one. But this car was trashed before that. Even I'm kind of curious, like, can I do this like properly while the very act of doing this is not proper at all? So you should be, like, I should feel there's 2 layers of metal right there. You can actually straight up separate them. You can see that I'm between the 2 panels, right? But as soon as I get one bit right there, looks like there's maybe a spot weld or something. See how it's held right there and it won't come off. That's where I'm gonna just cut. Joel wants sparks, so I think we might actually use an ankle grinder to cut anything in our path, mostly for the bottom part, not for the top piece. The top piece, look how thin that is. This is why you have to bond these back together, because look at how flimsy, I'll be very careful with this, but look at how flimsy the actual body is. It's really impressive with the way cars are built, that the up part underneath connects to it and strengthens everything just perfectly. I want every single person watching this to know that I do not run these things without a guard. This is not my doing. I hate not having guards on these. I did it. I did the thing. I'm gonna bend it away from the wheel. This is not my area of expertise. Most things aren't, but I think this is a very easy way. I'll get the other pair of vice grips for this, but simply bring it up and back, and then we can cut excess material off. If anything, cut the outer pieces off and then weld the inner ones up. See all that Bondo all over that area? Yeah, this car was in some sort of situation long before I owned it.
That looks like the thing you clean the grill with.
Basically is. So what you can see is I'm getting these things ready for potential welding. And then this side, just a shit show of Hondo. Now that we know that we can use what I've done, I'm gonna go ahead and lop off all of the outer fingers because look at, we have enough material, just enough. I'm gonna smooth this whole top piece down. You can see how close we're getting to here. But again, I'm not too worried about the fender, I'm worried about the inner fender. Look at all that Bondo. Could you see all that shit coming up? I know it's already gonna clear the wheel, but I just need to know how this is gonna look. If all this work is paying off or not. And I'm not going to stick my hand under there, but even with those beaten out of the way, I'm going to stick my hand under there. Those are right where I wanted them to be, and that is where the stock car kind of limits out. So the tire will not be able to bounce, jounce, rejounce into this wheel well much further because, I mean, look at that's right where it is. And so I'm going to massage these more. They're still wanting to kind of come down as they used to be. So I'm going to cut them a little bit back, splay them out a little bit more, and then there you go. But that's actually a pretty good payoff, I'm not gonna lie. I was expecting it to be a little bit more boring, but that's pretty sick. Well, we definitely want to see what this car can potentially look like, even with those wrong tires. But this is where the Öhlins DFVs come into play really nicely. Not only are they adjustable for preload and all that, but they actually, with this bottom part, and like many coilovers, allow you to drop the base this into here, and that lowers the car without changing your preload, which is really, a lot of people don't understand how important that is. So here's the moment of truth. I just raised the suspension, or lowered the car 3/4 of an inch.
Use a little bit more of it.
But that's nuts. That's nuts that we just dropped it 3/4 of an inch and it looks really good. Yeah, because I think what we'll want to do is drop it so it looks that height all the way around and has, you know, this to bleed off. We're gonna keep cranking these videos out before Gridlife. So this is step one. You see a lot of different things covered on one car. This is trying to make the most out of all the rules and see if we can make this thing set in an impressive time.